Because BitBlockBoom's in Dallas coming up now, correct?
Right. I was there the first 4 years, and the last two it was in Austin. Now we're moving it back to Dallas. It's just too hard to do in Austin and too expensive.
We want to thank our sponsor. This show is presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards, an orange pill in a pack, making talking about things that normally make you want to cry fun and easy. The scarcest and most educational cards to ever exist, available now. We have an incredible guest for you here today. Someone that I really admire, really respect, because they are a true playable character in a sea of non-playable characters, number one. But number two, because they are not double my age, almost double my age. And the reason I respect them for that is because they are a Bitcoiner, and I've told many people that I know, I've had the fortune, the honor to meet and become friends with, that are in their, let's say, 60s, 70s, 80s, and up, that are Bitcoiners that understand Bitcoin. They truly are people that can think critically. They are true playable characters. Elvin Toffler talked about in his book Future Shock, and I believe it was about 1970 when the book came out, that the people of the future would be people that were successful, rather, paraphrasing, would be the people that could learn, unlearn, and then relearn. Well, someone that is that age has the wisdom and experience and has lived their life a certain way for so long. And humans don't like change, as Mr. Gary Leland here today talks about. Humans don't like change. They like being herded. And someone that can break themselves from that matrix, from that thinking, from that mass formation, and say, you know what, there might be something that I'm missing, and lower their ego, add an increased humility, and say, there might be something I'm missing. I might need to do something differently. I might need to go look a different direction here, and found Bitcoin through all of that. Now that's someone I truly admire, truly respect, and I think we need to heed their opinions and weight those greater than really anyone else's. So I give to you, and I'm honored to have Gary Leland on the show today. Enjoy.
Mr. Gary Leland, thank you so much for coming on here today. I always talk about having playable characters on here. It's one of the the thesis of the show, in essence, is finding playable characters in a sea of non-playable characters. And you, sir, are definitely one of those people that can think critically. Think so. Thank you for coming on, Gary.
Well, that's kind of you to say. And I enjoy. Welcome to be on the show. Good to be here. But
Cool.
I don't know
Why?
how critical of a thinker I am.
Well, in saying that, I was actually gonna do this in a little bit, but I think maybe we'll do it right now because, people think of Bitcoin and they think of or the sound money world even too, but like you have like the sound money world, like the legacy world, I guess we'll say, is gold and silver, and you have the Bitcoin world, and people think of young people, for better or for worse, they just think of younger people. And you are, your handle, you kind of play up the boomer moniker. And one of the things I can't stand is the okay boomer meme. And
It
it
doesn't
just it
bother me at all.
it drives me insane. And so I would love for you to kind of touch on this, like even the fourth turning and your journey too. So I mean, kind of like aggregating a few things here, but like your journey into Bitcoin and why, because I think you I really admire you, Larry Lepard, some of the gentlemen, the David Foley's, people that have seen both worlds, because many of the young people, it's easy in a way for you to get into Bitcoin because you're young. You haven't seen a much, but for you to be able to humble yourself, lower ego, and to say, hey, there might be something I've been doing wrong monetarily my entire life. There could be a new direction. I admire men like you or women like you that are your age because of that. It's very hard to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So anyway, I would love for you to kind of share that journey and some of your takes on, the fourth turning and kind of what's happening here.
Well, hold on. I need to wipe my ass after all that ass kissing.
I truly do. And I told all of you guys that it really is. I can't imagine having to live your whole life. I talk to my parents like that. They're into Bitcoin, stuff like that. But to the cognitive dissonance you have to have almost, it just is naturally human, like it's
Yeah.
natural. And to be able to unlearn and then relearn, it's just, I hope I could do that, I guess is what I'm saying. So we appreciate you.
Well, I've always been a skeptic of the. I'm one of those people who are always ready for a change and skeptical of everything that's going on, no matter what it is. We're the opposite of my wife. She never wants to change, and she always believes everything she's told. So together, it's been a good journey, and she's expanded her base instead of being like most people. I think most people go through life believing everything they're told, not everything, but the majority, especially from the US government, and thinking that everything's perfect. Like, I remember when we first got married, like, first of all, let you know, I don't mind talking. So, you can reel me in whenever I talk too long.
I love it.
But when we first got married, maybe been married a few years, maybe it was like 82 or 81. I remember Kathy said, "Wow, this United States, we live in a great place." We were just talking. She goes, "This country will be here forever." And I was going, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, this country will never disappear." I mean, that was the conversation, maybe not the exact words.
Hmm.
I said, "Oh my gosh, the Roman Empire lasted 500 years, Kathy, and it's gone." And she goes, "Oh, never thought about that." So over
Hmm.
the years, I've been able to enlighten her, and her thought pattern has changed. But yeah, I believe that humans, for the most part, are sheep, that we like to be herded. And maybe it goes back to the caveman days. We had a group of people hanging out there, and one person took the lead, and they all were like, "Oh, sounds good." And they all followed whoever it was. But people are very good at being herded. And I think another example of that in modern times is whenever you get, I don't know if the proper words are riot, but when people start going crazy and rioting and stuff, everybody just joins in. It's the thing to do. Everybody's doing it. I need to be rioting too, whether it's wherever it's at. So I
Hmm.
think that herd mentality comes in there. And I think that really does slow down a lot of people and gives a lot of other people control, because of the herd mentality. They know what it is and they know how to use it. And the rest of the people don't realize they're the herd. I mean, we watch TV all the time at night, and then I'll say, "Did you see that?" And Kathy will go, "What?" And I'll have to rewind it. She'll go, "Oh my God, why was that in that article?" That has nothing to do with the whole news story, except blah, 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 prescription drugs. We're going to have this new thing. Trump sucks, blah, 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 blah. Just using it as an example.
Yeah.
And she'll go, "What the hell was that about?" Because she didn't catch it, but it's in there, and I'm just making that up. I don't know if I've ever
Yes.
seen it say that about Trump, but that would be an example of what you would expect.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing is I'm skeptical, and I'm always looking for change. Back in, gosh, 1995, I started building my first e-commerce site, and everybody told me I
Wow.
was stupid. People wouldn't buy stuff on the internet. So I buy stuff on the internet. And so I investigated, and finally by 96, it took a long time to make that shopping cart. I got it up and running. And the same thing with podcasting. I've always looked for new things to change. Everybody I told about podcasting, they said, "That's stupid. I got a radio in my car. Why would I listen to a podcast?" And same thing with the Bitcoin, except for now with Bitcoin, I'm so used to being called stupid. And then my stuff coming true, the things I believe in, and I believe in this. So I probably believe in Bitcoin more than anything I've ever done, more than anything. I mean, it took me a lot less time.
Hmm.
Podcasting, it was years before I ran into anyone who knew what a podcast was.
Yeah.
I would ask everywhere I would go if I go to Apple stores or whatever, because I got in it way before Apple did it. So it took a long time. But with Bitcoin, people knew what it was pretty quick, to me, compared to other technologies I've been into. And I don't know if I answered your question at
Yeah.
all on that, but I believe that people have a hard time opening their eyes.
Yeah, and man, it makes me think of so many things there, Gary. One of them being like Gell-Mann amnesia. There's so many like the different psychological, either like cognitive biases or psychological phenomenons of people believing. You touched on people. It's one of the things that drives me insane too. People just don't think there's evil in the world. Like there's people not
Yeah.
out to kind of control them or do whatever. And it's like I always tell the story like I cheated at Monopoly as a kid, as a child, when I was like 7, with nothing to win other than just like, haha, I won. You're telling me that people with all the fame, power, and fortune in the world at stake, they're not doing anything to manipulate what's going on? I mean, that just like the inherent, and that makes me think of the Gell-Mann amnesia of people that if you're a doctor and you see a doctor's story, you're very critical of it. You're like, oh, okay, like interesting. Yeah, no, I don't think that's right. And this, but if it's something we don't know, we just like take the media at word. Like people just they're so willing to like take people at their word of like, oh, I guess that must be true. They went, I don't know, why is that, Gary? Why?
I don't know,
Why
but we
is
do
that?
believe what we do believe, and that gets back to that herd mentality. I guess we
Hmm.
do believe. Majority of people believe everything you're told, and until they know you're a liar, until they've caught you, then they believe everything they do. And maybe that's a good sign of hope for the human race, but I think it's more of a sign of go ahead and lead us to the slaughter, in my
Hmm.
opinion. I just think that people just have to be more aware. It's like people just don't want damn change. Let's just face it. We don't
True.
want change. I used to sell cable TV door to door. I'd go door to door selling cable TV. These people had 3 channels is all they had, and we wanted to give them 100 channels for a month. And if they liked it, they could keep it for $7.95 a month. Pretty good. By today's
Yeah.
cable standards, hell of a deal.
Pretty good deal. Yeah.
ABC, NBC, CBS are 100 channels.
Hey, really quick, I want to annoy the hell out of you with a quick little break to just remind you that we have to share the signal within the noise because the algorithms hate truth. The algorithm hates truth. So we have to do all that we can to spread the signal. The faster we do that, the quicker change comes to the world. We need to be the change we seek to be. What are we doing? What am I doing? What are you doing to build a future? Also, if you want a written version of a lot of what we do here, please go to the description and find the link to our blog, our Substack, as well as you will see many links to either the work or the companies, the places you can find all the playable characters here that we talk to and how you can connect with them. So now back to the show. Thank you.
Well, when you get into a young area, like if you went to an air base, air base housing or army house, oh man, everybody bought that stuff. It was just a matter of how much money you could make in a day signing up people to cable TV. But if you went to an old area, shit, you couldn't sell one person. I only had 3 channels my whole life. That's all I'm ever going to need because they don't want change. The older you get, the less change you want. And so, I mean, people don't want change in general, but the older they get, the less they want. And that story really had nothing to do probably with what we're talking about. But
No, it does.
I just remember it because, like I said, that's when I realized how much change. Just like, not that this has anything, the older people get, the less they want to die. Right when they're about to die, they'll spend everything they have for an extra year. My mother was the perfect example of that. She died because she tried not to die so badly, that she died earlier. So people are just, they're weird on how we're programmed.
It is.
She didn't worry about it before.
Right.
And at 80, she's worried about getting cancer from the sun. Oh my gosh, how long would she have to be in the sun to get cancer at 80? I mean, like she'd be dead before she got cancer.
Oh, man.
All the damage has been done, but that's the way people think.
God love her. That's amazing. Yeah, it is. It's just it's human. Like you said, there's so many obviously good things about the human nature, and there's some of these things that like some of us just sit here and just like you're so puzzled as to why. So fourth turning wise, I know we mentioned that quick. Where do you think we are in this turning of just generations, but like technologies, like all these things going on?
Well, if you turnings, I think we're in the fourth turning. I don't know. I just really feel that way from my understanding of
you think at the end of it, beginning of it, where do you think we are in that turning? Where does your spidey sense tell you?
I'd say like 10% into it. Not right at the very beginning, maybe 20% into it, but I think we're definitely into it without a doubt. I don't think we're in the third turning anymore, and I know we're not in the first turning.
Yeah.
So I think the fourth turning is where we're at. What does your average person that you ask that question to say?
Yeah, I mean, I just started asking two people recently, but the same thing. I mean, everyone says fourth turning for sure, and like that's where I'm trying to get to people's truly the spidey sense of the intuition of like where are we at in the fourth turning though, and it's a lot of like halfway through, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's
I don't think
like
we're quite halfway through. I don't think we're halfway through yet, but I don't think we have a lot to go to get there. Maybe 25% would be a better answer than 10%. But now I'm walking back on my statement, but maybe it's a little further along than I'm saying, but I don't think it's 50%.
No, I tend to agree with you though, just because I think there's a lot, like you look around, I mean, things, at least in America, like where we are, things are still pretty dang good. And there's a billion options for someone. If you're not doing well, there's all kinds of things you could do, right? You can start businesses, you can get a job, you can get government assistance. I mean, overall, it's, you can buy Bitcoin. I mean, like, we're not in a civil war. We don't have, senators and representatives beating each other on the House floor like during the Civil War. We're not there yet. So, I mean, we still have a little ways to go. for before true chaos possibly breaks out. But
Yeah, I think we have a good ways to go before true chaos breaks out. And it's possible it doesn't happen in my lifetime. You know what I mean? I'm almost 70, so I figured maybe I got about if I'm happy and I'm lucky, I got about 20 years left. You know, let's just face it, that's the way it is. So if it does happen in my lifetime, it's going to be at the end of my lifespan. You know, so it affect my kids and grandkids, and maybe by then great grandkids more. But
yeah,
hopefully they're in a good place because they've been educated and they're smart. And I don't mean educated as in school. I mean educated as in how to
street
take
smart.
care of themselves. Huh?
Street
But
smart.
they are,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are educated in school. I'm not saying they
Yeah.
aren't, but that's not what I'm talking about here. They know how to
Yes.
take care of themselves. They know how to work. They know how to acquire things. I think my two kids are kind of like me. I was going to say maybe when I was younger, but maybe even now. I think that if you dropped, hell, even my wife, I think if you dropped any of my family off in a town, a decent sized town, and gave them $100, within a year, we would have a place to live. We would have a regular job. We would have
Wow.
clothes. We would have what we needed. Because we're all like hustlers, go-getters. We know how to take care of ourselves. We know how to watch our money. We know how to not waste our money. We know how to work. And that's the key there is we know how to work. A lot of people don't know how to work. I mean, as when I ran my businesses, I would always accuse them of being allergic to work, you know, because they spent more time trying to get out of work. And I think that's a key thing. And that has a lot to do with the turnings too, is the work initiative. The first turning, they're the ones that I believe are building up everything. You know, but there's a point in time where people just don't have the work ethics anymore because they've been living in the life too good, you know, and I think that's where we're at now, where the people coming out of depression, they worked their ass off and saved their money, you know, because they saw that. Now, you know, my grandparents, I guess, were into depression. My parents were after the depression. I was after them, and my kids are the next generation. So they spend money on stuff that's just crazy to me, even though they don't have near the income, the savings I do, and they have longer to live, which I could guess I start pissing mine away now and still probably live the rest of my life. They just buy stupid stuff that you're going, why would you spend $1,000 on that coat? I mean, things like that.
What the thing that I keep coming back to for 20 years now. I'm 36 and I was very just
My
involved
daughters are 37 and 38.
Are they? Yeah. And so it's just like ever since I was like in middle school and high school, it was always I grew up. My dad was similar to you, so it was always something that we were talking about, whether it was like religion and politics, politics and religion. Like those were the things that were. I was like 35 when I was 15, and I was just always thinking about these things, and just forever it's felt like apathy and indifference, and like this fourth turning, right? Like things have been too good for too long, so people don't care. It's like kind of like you were saying about your wife. I mean, it's like, hey, this will always be here. And I feel like that's vast majority of people just believe that, and that's changing as we're going through this turning. Now people, like you said, your wife has learned, like, hey, and it's, I can see a different side now, and it just feels like that. And do you think, like, on a Bitcoin standard, which you just made me think of this, I'm gonna start asking people this going forward, but that to me is a huge problem when you look backward. Is that something that changes on a Bitcoin standard, like apathy and indifference of people, not just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's too good? Because hyper Bitcoinization would be a great place. That would seemingly be great. So do people get too apathetic? I haven't gone down that road myself. So
Well, Bitcoin fixes everything.
right.
It's what they say. But
Yeah.
I can see your point there. If we do have Bitcoin hyperization, which I really hope we don't have anytime soon, because that's going to be hell for the whole
Yeah.
world. Some of us will be fine. I may be the only person, and I live in a pretty affluent neighborhood, I would say, and I don't know how many people in my neighborhood would be fine, because I don't know but one or two people in my neighborhood that have any Bitcoin, and I don't know that they've got a whole Bitcoin yet. I mean, that's the main thing, right? Is you got to get to a whole Bitcoin before you start pissing your money away in life. But it's the opposite. And people live too much for today. And maybe hyper Bitcoinization would make people start realizing what's going on and stop pissing their money away and start putting into Bitcoin as fast as they could. But I just don't think we want to go there, personally.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not trying to be cocky, but I don't want my Bitcoin to turn me into a super wealthy person at the expense of everybody else. I kind of think, and I think this is kind of a Bitcoiner way of thinking, is I want everybody to come with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I don't try to talk people into, and I don't even try to talk people into it anymore. When I say that, it's pretty past tense. Because I don't want to be responsible. I used to try to talk people into buying Bitcoin like I was selling them on it, even though I made nothing. But I
Hmm.
am a good salesperson, so I could convince people to do it. But I don't want to be responsible for someone buying their Bitcoin because I convinced them to buy it and then not having the faith or understanding. And then when it takes a dip, we all know it's going to take a
Yes.
50% drop. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just the way it is. If you go through
Yep.
enough of these, you're like, oh, well, whatever. Oh, it only dropped 70% this time. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, good deal. So, but I don't want them buying it, let's say at $100,000 when it hits
Hmm.
$100,000. And then we drop to 50 and they sell it because they're scared, and then they sell it at 40 because they
Right.
didn't have the conviction. So I
Yep.
don't want to be responsible for that. So I don't try to talk people into that anymore. But I think Bitcoiners as a whole try to orange pill as many people as they can. And that's what I was getting at a second ago, because they want everybody to come with them. Not because they're making any money off of it. You know, it's not like they're going, oh my gosh, if you bought $100 worth of Bitcoin, my stack's going to go up a penny. I mean, it's not going to go
Yes.
up at all, not even the 1 penny. So I think that's a thing, is that the Bitcoiners want to help people go. And that's the way I feel about it. I don't want to increase my wealth at the cost of everybody else. I just want to increase my wealth because I am a capitalist at heart. And
Yes.
I have no problem mentioning that, saying that, but I don't want to be a capitalist and other people have to suffer for my capitalism
Hmm.
or my increase to my stack.
Do you feel like, the communism, socialism have come about, in the last 150 years, for many reasons, obviously, whether it's human nature or failing monetary systems, things of that nature. But, to me, it feels like capitalism, the legs that people have to stand on, like if you're a collectivist, the legs you have to stand on are, hey, look, capitalism failed, capitalism failed. But to me, it's really because capitalism's on a faulty monetary system, right? I mean, it's on an inflationary debt-based system, which makes literally zero sense. So those two things are competing. You can't have capitalism on a debt-based system. I mean, you can. We've done it for a while, but it's not a healthy system. And I think that's where they have legs where they're like, oh, and it's you're conflating two things though, right? What are your thoughts on that
Well,
in just,
I think capitalism is pretty much not true capitalism anymore.
hmm
I think the government has put too many controls on capitalism, whether it's money, what they've done with our money, or the rules they put in place. For
hmm
instance, I saw a thing where some monks couldn't sell coffins anymore because there was a law in the state only funeral homes could sell coffins.
Boy, oh boy.
That kind of like takes away from capitalism a little bit. I bet they were beating the hell out of everybody in price on their coffins, because they probably were doing it because they wanted to make a real good coffin at a real good price, and they were just doing it because it was their thing, not because they were money hungry pigs. So I think the government has controlled the put too many controls on capitalism. Still, though, with as much as the government has screwed up our money, has tried to put controls on capitalism, I'm a real free market person. As long as I'm
Hmm.
not hurting someone, I think I pretty much should be able to do whatever I want to. But as much as the government has tried to control everything, people are still coming here from all over the damn world to get a hunk of this shitty capitalism, because
Yes.
it's still the best there is. And
Yep.
you go to many countries, I don't see any countries after a time period doing capitalism. Russia must have made it the longest as was, and they only made it like 100 years or something.
Hmm.
And they dissolved and became a capitalist country. Yeah, now they have a dictator, but they're not communists really anymore. They're all making money over there.
Yeah.
So I just don't see it as a long-term scale, and I don't know who comes up with these examples of where it's done great at. I just don't see it compared to the United States or any capitalist country. I mean, I think that a good example of that, a real good example of that, is Korea. South Korea, North Korea, they both, one
Hmm.
became communist and one stayed capitalist. And look at them 50 years later, 70 years later, whatever it is. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, one of them is destitute and the other one is like competing with us as far as technology goes.
Yeah, it's the picture of them at
So,
night, right, Gary? Like the
yeah.
picture of the satellite
Oh,
picture at
yeah.
night.
Yeah,
Oh man.
one's probably totally black and the other one's lit up. It's kind of like
Yes.
looking at banks in the United States compared to the rest of the world in that night thing. You look at the
Exactly.
United States at night and they lit up the banks. Oh my gosh, the whole country's lit up. You look at the rest of the world and it's like dark with a spot
Oh
here or
man,
there. It's amazing how banks,
it's
are
incredible.
every corner now, every corner is starting to get more than one. I mean,
Seriously,
it's just
fast food and
amazing.
banks. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well, you can pretty much print your own money. I mean, with fractional reserves or whatever it is, when they can loan out
mhm.
$9 out of $10. I mean, and just loan it around. I wonder if a bank that has like 20 branches can loan it from branch to branch to branch. By the time it gets through, they just made $5 million off of, or some large amount off of.
Yeah. There's
So
no
yeah, no
there's
wonder
no
they're
such
building
thing.
banks.
There's no such thing as robbing Peter to pay Paul. There's no such
No.
thing in the banking world. It's no such thing. It does feel like the 2030s, like you mentioned this earlier, and I was just noting it, like the 2030s feel like when things really start to change, and like you said, it's probably 2030s, 2040s. So in that 20-year time period that you mentioned, that's what I think. I've always thought like 2030s just feel like the time where demographics are really shifting. You have, the Dianne Feinstein's obviously just passed away. She's what, 90 years old. You had this real turning of generations. So it just feels like
Isn't that a
that.
mess though? Isn't that a mess that someone is 90 years old and they're still in politics?
It's incredible.
It's incredible. How much can they
Unbelievable.
really know? I mean, if you came up to me and said, Gary, we would like you to be a senator. You're a nice guy. You talk well. You're a pretty good looking dude. We want you to be a senator, our president, or whatever. I'd go, are you crazy as hell? I couldn't handle all that. I mean, I don't know if I could handle it when I was 30, much less though when you're 70, 80, or even 90. Oh my gosh. Are they just walking around with a drool cup going, you vote for me? I mean, really, they
Yeah,
even, I don't think they should have an age limit. I mean,
right.
anyone should be able
Yeah,
to
I don't either.
run, but I don't think, I think they should have term limits. I
Yeah.
mean, you shouldn't
Yes.
be in there for your whole life, shouldn't be a politician. I mean, I
Yes.
don't think it was ever set up to be a
No.
politician your whole life. So that's how they get to be 90 in there, because there's no way she could win at 90 if she decided to run. But if she did decide to run for the first time at 90 and she won, more power to her. But
Right.
I don't think any politician at 90 is going to run for the first time and get it, because everybody's going to go,
Right.
no way, I want that guy in there. He's older than my grandpa. And my
Do you,
grandpa didn't even know how to use his internet.
do you, and this is okay. Now we're like coming full circle in a way. Do you think this is, which I want to get your opinion because again, a younger person can't necessarily answer this as well, but do you think people are like the politicians, like so many of them, like you said, are 70s, 80s, 90s, but the problem is they've been in there, many of them for 20, 30, 40 years. It's not the
Yeah.
age that's the problem. It's how long they've been in there. Do you think it's humans not liking change as much? Because like you look at the polls and it's like, do you approve of Congress? It's always like single digits approve. For decades it's been like that, but yet the same people keep getting voted in. Do you think that's
Yeah,
humans
that
just
is
not wanting
weird.
to change at the ballot box finally, like right when they have to actually do it? Or is there something more nefarious going on behind the scenes? I mean, what is going on? It's wild.
I just figure it has more to do with what they're doing. Combination wise, when you're in there for a while, you get projects done for your community, maybe, but you also get a ton of money that
True.
you can use
Yeah.
for your campaign, which the new guy
Hmm.
coming up doesn't have to compete against you. So, you can just spend enough money throwing dirt on them. Even if
Yep.
you just made it all up, that
Right.
there's no way they can
The
beat
Harry
you
Reid.
anymore.
Yeah, wasn't it
Yeah, it's
Harry Reid
like,
like 10 years ago that they completely made up something about, I forget who it was. And then someone called him out, like a journalist, like sat him down with an interview, and then they called him out like, yeah, you completely made this up, this whole thing. And he's like, yeah, we won, didn't he? Didn't we?
yeah,
It was like
that's what I said. There's no
wild.
integrity.
No,
But
none.
but I think because they are in there so long, and that's where the term limits would come, is they get so many favors owed to them and so many campaign donations where they have to owe favors for,
Yeah.
like the pharmaceutical companies. Oh my gosh, they must own every politician, I bet. They own every commercial on
Oh,
TV. You aren't gonna see a TV
yes.
station saying anything bad about them. They're every commercial.
Yep.
So I think it has more to do with the funds that they're given. Because some guy starting out for the first time doesn't have that money. So it's usually, because usually you see it as a guy starting out the first time going against some old person who hasn't done jack or anything good for the people, but they keep getting voted in because this young person just does. And I had an acquaintance here who was running for House of Representatives here locally,
Hmm.
and he was the only Republican running in a district where the Democrat who ran it resigned. So there's a new person running who had not been there forever, and he couldn't get any money from the national committee. That's not how they do it. They just don't say, okay, we're going to give everybody running when there's one Republican left, we're going to help his campaign out a little. They kind of be sitting on tons of money,
Oh,
but they don't send them any money. They don't help them out very much. So I don't know. It's just a
incredible.
part of the system, but they're all crooks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, no matter which way you go, you're not getting much of a change.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, it's like you mentioned earlier. I mean, it's not how the system is designed to be set up. DC was moved, the capital moved there because it was a swamp. They didn't want people to go there. There was no air conditioning back in the day, stuff like that, right? So they didn't want people there. Now it's completely 180 degrees opposite of what it is. Do you do you think, and it's segueing a little bit here, but do you think Bitcoin, and kind of touching on some of those things we touched earlier, but the generational gap in your experience, do you think it's been harder or easier for younger people when you're talking to, like you said, kind of orange pilling,
Yeah,
or talking
for
to people about
sure.
Bitcoin? Do you think it's easier for
Yeah,
younger people when they get it, or have you found success with
a lot
older? I mean, what?
easier.
Okay.
A lot easier. Number one, they're more comfortable on the net. I mean,
Hmm.
let's face it. I would get, I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's got to be gigantic, the amount of boomers who would not have a computer ever in their entire life if it hadn't been for phones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
only computer they've ever had.
Yeah.
Maybe their kids had one in the house, but it wasn't really theirs. I mean, maybe
Hmm.
they went over there and searched cake or something,
Yeah.
but they weren't
Yeah.
like, bro. So they're just not as comfortable on the net as younger people are, because they grew up on the net and they grew up with computers and blah, 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 blah. And so older people aren't, but also younger people didn't have all these rigid thoughts on how to invest in saving money. Boomers do. They've been saving their whole lives and they've been putting it with somebody who takes care of it for them. Maybe they bought a little gold or silver if they thought the turnings were coming. But
Hmm.
besides that, they've always been able just to say, "Here you go, Fidelity. Here's my money, and take care of it for me."
Yeah.
Now you're asking them to take care of their own money. You're asking them to be their own bank. Forget that. I mean, now you're not asking them to take care of their money. You're asking them to be their own damn bank. Oh my gosh, it's that's a great power. But as Voltaire said, with great power comes great responsibility. And most people, young and old, aren't ready for that responsibility. But young people aren't stuck in their ways and haven't been doing it the same way for 60 years. So they're more apt to change and try the new way. And sometimes it's kind of weird because, to me, let's face it, boomers have the majority of the wealth. We're getting ready to see the largest wealth
Hmm.
transfer that we've ever seen. And that probably by itself will help the price of Bitcoin, because younger people say, I've been
Right.
wanting some Bitcoin, I'm getting some now,
Yeah.
you know. But older people, yeah, if they just put 1% of their money in Bitcoin, I'm not even I'm not talking about being like me and being a little piglet. I'm just talking about being 1% of their wealth in Bitcoin. I mean, it's one of those things that could make a huge difference, or it might affect you a little. I mean,
Hmm.
the plus versus negative of that is just fantastic. I mean, it's like if you have, I'm just making up numbers here, but let's say if you had $1 million in your investments and it went down one day $10,000, you aren't going to care. I
Right.
mean, the next day it might be up 20,000. Next day it might be down 30,000. Next day it might be 100,000. Who knows?
Hmm.
So even if you lost the entire 1% that you put in the Bitcoin, if you lost the whole thing, they wouldn't be going, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I lost 1% of my wealth." So
Yes.
that's the part I have a hard time understanding, is why they don't do that. And the other thing that old people are stuck on, I don't mind calling them old people because that's what we are. I look in the mirror every day and I see how old I am. I don't know why people go, a lot of people, when they talk to me, I'm just saying boomer. I'm not calling you, I am a boomer. I see it every damn day when I look in the mirror. But a lot of people just are not capable of investing that money into Bitcoin, even though their downside is so small. And it's like I said, it's just because the way they've been grown up, the way they've been raised, people don't want change to begin with. So if you spent 70 years compiling this money, I guess maybe you're just a greedy little piglet on the money, not realizing that that's the wrong piglet. You're the guy with
Hmm.
the pig with the house of straws. You want to be a pig with the house of bricks. So Bitcoiners are the pigs with brick houses. So when the big bad wolf comes, which is inflation or the Fed or the World Economic Forum, whatever you want to call, when the big
Hmm.
bad wolf comes, our house isn't going to be blown down. We're going to be fine. We're just going to ride out the storm, where the other ones' houses will be falling down. I never
Yeah.
thought about this scenario.
Yeah, so it's so true. It makes me think of one of my favorite passages in the Bible is just building your house on rock, right? And instead of sand, it's same analogy in essence. And it's so true. What are you building on? Are you building on the first principles and natural law, or are you not? And that's again another way to kind of say all those things. And I'm sure that's why those stories exist, because that's what they're trying to convey.
Speaking of the Bible, Bitcoin helped me to learn about something in the Bible that I really never, I knew, but I never understood. When Jesus goes to the temple and he kicks out all the money changers. I never realized the money changers were all bankers, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. He
Yeah.
kicked all the bankers out of because I used to think it was like people who ran little shops and stuff, but it wasn't. It was money changers. It was very specific. So Jesus went to the temple and kicked out all the banks. So I thought that was a very interesting thing to hear, that even Jesus didn't want the banks around.
Yeah. It's funny too, another one that makes me think of as well is, when he says, give to Caesar's what is Caesar's and give to God what is God. And even at that time, right? I mean, gold and silver, the big fault with gold and silver, obviously, is it's hard to assay, it's hard to move around, but it can be clipped, it can be debased. And that's what was happening at that time too. So there was inflation in the money, even though with precious metals, there was still inflation. And Jesus, knowing all, said, hey, you guys are gonna have to deal with this for thousands of years still. So yeah, you better focus on what's important, because
it's amazing. It's amazing how much you learn when you get into Bitcoin. All these things you never question, like stupid stuff like the ridges on a quarter. I never knew why those were there.
Yes.
It's to handle what you're talking about there.
Yes.
Clipping coins off, it. But there's so many things that if you go down that rabbit hole of Bitcoin that you learn that people really, I don't think, have any idea of at all. They don't even have any idea. So actually, Bitcoin, I was telling one of my best friend the other day, I said, Bitcoin actually changed my life. Because number one, I have so many new acquaintances now that think like I think. And I was by myself thinking like this before, because I didn't want to be the kind of person who was thinking this. And I guess I could find, if I wanted to track down radicals, I could find people thinking like me, which I didn't want to do. But all of a sudden, it opened a door to people who thought like me. But the difference is, they're all were so much smarter than I was. I felt like, I always felt like I was not the smartest person in the room, because I'm not as smart, but one of the smarter people in the room. And man, now I'm always way down the list. I'm one of the dumbest people in the room now, which I love, because I'm learning so much. I mean, associated with people who know so much more. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. It's like living in a neighborhood. You don't want the nicest house in the neighborhood. It's the same thing. So, but Bitcoin has been great for me, and I'm not talking financially. It's not been bad financially, but my whole awakening.
Yes.
And I think most people get into it have an awakening.
Yeah, absolutely. That's similar to my story too. I mean, like I was saying to you earlier, I mean, I was very active politically, and religion and politics, all that stuff, for the 2000s up to 2012, and then that's what woke me was the financial crisis and those elections that were happening, and realizing that they're all on the same team, and it was the money that was broken. You can fight all you want in politics for the next 100 years till you're blue in the face. You'll kill yourself trying to do the political thing, but it was the money that was completely broken. And I thought I was pretty smart too, because then after that I went into business stuff, and then I started understanding money and learning about gold and silver and all these different things. It took me till 2017, 2018 to start understanding Bitcoin. And so I thought I had a pretty good grasp of things, but only the last 5 years. I mean, Bitcoin has shown me more in 5 years than I learned for the previous 15, 20 years before that. It was just mind-blowing to me. I was like, wow, I thought I was pretty smart and had a pretty good reference of natural law and all these things, and it just blows your mind wide open and how you think about everything. So it well said.
Most of the content I absorb now is where I used to just absorb shit content. I mean, whatever
business
was on
stuff,
TV.
fiat business stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now I'm like really essentially focused on finances and Bitcoin, and not Bitcoin, but finances altogether. I mean, there's so many great, and that probably has a lot to do with YouTube also being in existence, which it wasn't before. But I mean, my TV, all my TVs, if I'm in the room, it's on YouTube. you
Yeah.
know, and my
Yeah.
feed is that YouTube feed gets screwed up once in a while. My wife
Hmm.
wanted to look at dream houses the other day. Now I got all these dream houses in my feed. So I guess in a few weeks those will
Give it a day or
disappear.
two. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to learn to like log out and log into Cognito or something
Yes.
whenever I search something like that, but I'm too
Oh, that's so
lazy.
funny.
But
That is so funny.
yeah, so big YouTube has really created the opportunity for anyone, to learn about anything. Though I mean, I can't remember what I looked up the other day. I heard a word I didn't know, so I looked it up, on YouTube. So but when you want to learn about Bitcoin, yeah, people don't need to be educated. It's like with EFTs. I mean, I don't think they're a good thing, but I think they're going to be good for me.
Hmm.
I mean, because
Yeah.
people are going to buy Bitcoin and my Bitcoin's going to go up.
Right.
But I don't think they're a good thing for people in general since they can own their own Bitcoin already, and a lot of them will go in
Yes.
there. And then I see Max Kaiser saying this is going to be like gold in 1918 or whatever when they took it all, so I don't know. That's getting off the subject now.
No, I think it's you brought it up too. I want to talk about your orange pill story in a minute, but since we're on this subject, I think that it is. I mean, the ETFs, yeah, it's going to make the number go up. It's going to bring people. I think at the end of the day, all good news. Anytime Bitcoin's on someone's lips, I think that's a win. That's a win for humanity. It's a win for getting, like you said earlier, getting people off the ship, the sinking Titanic, onto the life raft. Like Bitcoin, a true Bitcoiner doesn't really care about seeing their purchasing power go up and down. Yes, it's great, but we're trying to save everyone from the ship. We can see the ship going down, and we're humans and we
Yeah.
want to save other people. And I think that's the true ethos of it. So I think the ETFs, like you
Well,
said,
you and
it's
I are those kind of people. There are some people who are going to be, if you watch the movie
exactly
Titanic,
some.
he was paying to get on the
Yeah.
boat by himself. There are people like
Right.
that too. Here's $100. Let me
Absolutely.
on that boat. Keep
Yep.
this lady off.
Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so you and I want everybody to come on the boat, but some people don't want anyone on the boat but them because they want all their Bitcoin too, I guess.
Yes. And it changes people, right? And those people, hey, they get on that life raft and then eventually they start to change. As we just talked about us, we change. We thought we were pretty smart people, pretty smart. And then you get humbled once you get into Bitcoin. It's a whole new world where you realize, wow, I was wrong
A
about
lot
some
of it's
things.
not
And
like just a bunch of people in their basement playing video games that are
right.
thinking crazy stuff. This
Right.
is like all smart people. I mean, for the
Yes.
most of the people I deal with are like, wow, that's a smart guy. We were with Bob Burnett
Oh,
in South Carolina in
yeah.
Greenville. Kathy and I, it's the first time Kathy had met Bob. Bob and I are pretty good friends now. And
Yeah.
she was going, gosh, that guy's really smart. I'm going, Kathy,
Yeah.
everybody at this event right
Yeah.
now is smarter than us, probably,
Yes.
so but that's the way. Those are the people I think who saw Bitcoin were the people who put in the time to read the white paper
Hmm.
and to look at it, not just people who were jacking around, saying, oh,
Right.
I want to go drink some beer tonight. you
Right.
know that's another thing about Bitcoin is they don't drink very much either, because I run
Yeah, it's so
open
true.
bar at my events and my bar tab's never as high as it would be at another conference I used to have. Oh my god, the bar tab was real high there, but they drink, but they don't. And in 7 years, this will be my seventh year, so in 6 years I've never had someone coming out of an event drunk where we go, oh, can someone give him a ride? That just doesn't
Wow.
happen. They want Bitcoin. Most Bitcoiners stay in control, and they're there to get educated and talk and find out more about the subject, not just to come get drunk and lay around.
Well, and it says something too, obviously, about Bitcoiners, the ethos, kind of the epoch we're in, probably things of that nature. However, it also is a good segue into your orange pill story, kind of how you got orange pill, but also BitBlockBoom, which, as the viewer can see right behind you, and you just mentioned that your conference is obviously it's not Bitcoin Magazine. You're not trying to be the biggest conference in the world. You're trying to have true Bitcoiners at your conference, people that are high level. I don't know how else to really say it other than that, but I would love for you to kind of get into your orange pill journey and then also, eventually how you got to BitBlockBoom and how this came about.
Sure. I started I first heard about Bitcoin when it was $100, and my friend, who I still know to the day, I saw him. He said, "Are you into Bitcoin?" I said, "I don't know what it is." And he goes, "That's like online stocks." I said, "I'm not even interested in that." And every time I see him, I tell him, "Do you know how many millions and millions of dollars it cost me?" I mean, just from my first expense on Bitcoin, by not being able to buy it at $100. And then
hmm
another friend of mine, Adam Curry, got given 33 of them. Someone gave him 33. And he kept talking about how he wasn't getting rid of them and that they were $1,000 now and blah, blah, blah. And then I was speaking at an event. So I've been hit twice. And the reason I say that is I find a lot of Bitcoiners, it's their third shot at it when they
Yeah.
buy it. It's their third exposure. That's why I brought those two up.
Mm-hmm.
My third exposure, I was speaking at a conference over in Dallas, and I was walking in the hall, and I saw a bunch of friends of mine. They were standing around talking, and one of them was talking about Bitcoin. He was into Bitcoin, and he was explaining to the other five. And I got about halfway into conversation. The conversation was about halfway over when I got there. So the conversation ended, and they all left. And honestly, I don't know that any of them have any Bitcoin to this day.
Wow.
They probably feel like they missed the boat, because that's something that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got through, I said, "Hey, Tony, I missed about half of that, but that really appealed to me." What appealed to me was he started talking about how Bitcoin was the only internet protocol left that hadn't been created, was a protocol for money. And at this point in time, I had maybe 20 e-commerce sites. So a new protocol for the internet kind of interested me. So we sat down on the couches, 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, we're still talking. I go home, listen to a podcast on the way home about Bitcoin. When I get home, I call up Tony and say, "Hey, can I come over, and are you going to be at that conference this morning?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Could we talk about Bitcoin some more?" I said, "Sure." I wasn't going to go over there, but it was really appealed to me. So we went over there and met. He took me over to his house. He was using GPU mining. He was mining Zcash and Ethereum and trading them for Bitcoin.
Wow.
Because you could mine both of those really easy with GPUs. He showed me his machines and stuff, and helped me set up a wallet. And I put $10 in it, I think. And then when I got home that night, I started buying Bitcoin.
Wow.
You know, and I've been buying ever since, no matter what the price was. You know, I dollar cost average all year long. So yeah, what I got, like,
True
I
savings.
guess now I have some that I bought at $69,000, I guess, because I'm sure I bought some at the high, because I always buy it. But I'm getting, but that's a very minor amount, and I'm getting ready to be
right.
How much longer do you think it's going to be for? No one's down on Bitcoin, even the people who bought at 69. I mean, we're going to be hitting 50 soon, probably, in my guess. So, I mean, it's getting closer and closer that nobody's going to be down.
Yep.
You know, so no matter when you bought it.
Yes.
And that always seems to me, from my last experience with that, seems to me when that's a good sign. Yes. So that's how I got an orange pill, though, was 3 shots like everybody else. Third shot, so a word clicked. You know, the first guy, online stocks, give me a break.
Yes.
Couldn't he have said something better that would have interested me? I had a lot of time to kill. I remember the situation. I was waiting on someone who was doing a video. They had a video show that lasted about an hour. It had about 20 minutes. But no, he liked online stocks. I didn't want anything to do with that. Yeah, I'd lost enough money screwing with that.
It's so funny you say that, Gary, because I had like the same experience. It was like 20. I honestly think it was, and I kind of remember it because it was, I think the Boston Marathon bomber thing had happened in April 2013, I believe. And I think Bitcoin was around 100, or it was like $60 or $70 or something like that. And I remember making a purchase. I remember being at my in-laws, and like, I just won't forget this. And I might have like the day off or something like that. But it was like, I remember buying like a bunch of like silver that day, stuff like that. And it just heard her Bitcoin, but it was someone had said something similar to me, like about that. Like, it was like, they didn't say online stock. They said something like really like ridiculous. And then I was just like, okay, like whatever. Like I'm cool with my metals, man. And I look back, I'm like, oh, like if I would have bought that much, you know, the silver I bought, like I was like,
yeah,
oh,
where would
boy.
you be now?
Yeah,
that's why I go back to my initial purchase and divide that out by $100. I'm going, man, you know how much money you cost me?
I love you say
Every
that.
time I see him, I tell him that. Every time I see him, he goes, "Well, I thought you being an old guy, that would make more sense to you than saying internet protocol," or whatever he wants to say.
That's hilarious. It is true, though. Like, everyone's got like the 3-parter. It is.
It is very true. That's more and more people I meet, or not more and more. I meet so many people that takes a third shot to, and the same thing goes with people I've talked into buying it. You know, I've talked people into buying it when it hit the run of 2018, when it went up to 19,000. You know, when it was, I don't know, maybe in the $6,000 or $7,000, I had talked a friend of mine into buying some, and he bought $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth. I don't know what it was. It was in the $1,000, less than 10,000. Yes. And when Bitcoin was running up to 69 on the last bull run, I said to him, I said, "Hey, Robert," didn't mean to say his name there. No one will know who that is anyway. I said, "Hey, have you looked at your Bitcoin lately?" And he said, no, I haven't looked at it since I bought it 4 years ago. And I'm going, and that's what happens to people.
Yeah.
If that's their first shot. If you talk them into it, that's all they do is they buy it and then it's just sitting there. Especially old
Yes.
people, because they just go, just doing it like I would an investment, just letting it sit there, see what happens. So he went and looked at it and he called me. He goes, "Oh my gosh, that's done really well." I said, "Yeah, yeah, it has." Did you ever buy any more? He goes, "No, I just bought that one time." I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Maybe I should get some more." And so I talked him into dollar cost averaging
Mm.
and with Swan. And so I said, "Go to Swan,
Wow.
figure out how much you can buy, and just start dollar cost averaging." And then maybe Bitcoin was around 30,000 at this point, on its way up to 69. And so I don't know how much he decided to start buying, but he started buying.
Yep.
He called me a month later and goes, "Gary, I just bought $10,000 worth." I said, "That's not what I told you to do." Because I got it now, though. So I wanted to buy $10,000. I think maybe, yeah, this must have been when it was in its high 50s now. Because I know where I was at when he called me, and I was at that location when it broke 60. So it must have been in the high 50s by now. He goes, "That's okay. I'm fine." Well, yeah, if he'd have listened to me, he'd have bought it on the way up and bought it on the way down to 17.
Yep.
But now he should be getting pretty close to being even again on it.
Yep.
But that's the situation I brought up earlier. I don't want to talk someone into doing it.
Yeah.
And then they lose money because they didn't have the conviction and they sold. Matter of fact, I posted on my Facebook page the other day. I post all the time on there. I posted the other day. I'm no longer posting about Bitcoin. I've done it enough, given it my shot. I'm through. I'll just post when it hits $100,000 to say, "Told you so." And that was my post last week. I did that on January 1st. I'm not posting about Bitcoin anymore.
That is awesome.
So okay, yeah. So like I said, I just don't want to talk anyone into it. Someone wants to contact me in a DM, or if it's a friend of mine wants to ask, I'd be happy to talk to them. But I'm not going to convince people into doing it.
Yes. It's funny you say that too, because over the last, handful of months for me, it's been just more of the education of like not trying to convince people to buy, just saying, hey, you should really study it. Yeah, you should, I'm not going to tell you to buy it, or I'm not going to suggest you to buy it. You should just really go study it. And that's kind of where my change or maturation over just the last handful of months has come of like, yeah, like you said, I'm not going to try to tell people to buy it or whatever. Just go study it, just go study it.
Right.
Maybe buy just $5 worth, $10 worth or whatever, just so you're like in the game. You have that human feel.
That skin.
Yeah,
but
you need the skin,
but you need the skin more than just the skin in the game. You need the frequency with it. Skin in the game will get you like my friend who bought less than 10,000, didn't look at it for 5 years. Because he's got skin in the game, but he has no reason to learn any more about it. But if you got skin in the game and you're frequently adding even $5 worth, then that makes all the difference. If you want to orange pill someone, that makes all the difference in the world, is the frequency, is regular basis buying. Because then you look at it, you go, shit, but another $50 in here, what's happening with this stuff? Yes. And then they look at it. Or most places now, if it's like, I don't know how everybody is, but I know Swan educates you. They'll send you things in the email. And my wife reads those all the time. She'll read those all the time. She's on the mailing list somehow. I don't know. She's never done any.
You probably put her in her email, Gary. That's what it was. You put in her email, so you didn't get the emails, and you're like, all right.
It could be, and I'm such an old guy, I forgot, because that's the importance of. I only put important information. Only put important information in my head anymore. Yeah. But it's working. She tells me things all the time.
I know. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
That's hilarious. So you'll get a kick out of this. My dad always says, and now he's telling my kids this, his grandkids, is just like, pain is a great teacher. And that's lost on the Gen Z and the Gen Y generations. And I grew up playing hockey. I got in a lot of fights, not fights like outside of hockey. I got in a lot of hockey fights growing up, played college, played in the minors, and I got in a lot of fights. And you do learn about something like literally getting punched in the face, and a respect for other human beings and things, sticking up for teammates and things of that nature. And that's just such a lost art now in society. And my dad taught me that growing up, and I lived kind of by that ethos of pain is a great teacher. And where I'm going with this is, you see like a Justin Trudeau, you see like the pain of being censored or being rug pulled or things of that nature. And you look at it and you're like, man, human beings they just love relearning history lessons. They love, getting hurt. It's like the misery loves company. And we're here trying to, it's not that we're geniuses. We've been through a lot of these things, but we just learn maybe quicker. And then you look at so many people just the overall population, you're like, how do you not see this? And my question to you, I guess, is where do you see this where we can out educate the pain and maybe outrun the speeding train of pain? Or do you think we're in for maybe more pain over the coming, 5-10 years or so to get people into the more pain, the more people are going to come in, obviously, over time, whether it's inflation or government's doing ridiculous things. Where do you kind of see the plane landing where it's, can we out educate and get people in because we're putting out so much content, or is it going to be more pain that brings people to Bitcoin?
Well, I think to get back to what we were saying earlier, I think the fourth turning is here, and I don't think there's anything you can do about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a lot of pain. Some of us will be able to handle the pain better than others, but we're going to have the pain. But total collapse isn't going to happen for quite a while. But I mean, yeah, we're going to have a lot of pain, and maybe we'll have pain, and it'll seem like it goes away a little bit. But it's on a path that I don't think there's any. Oh my gosh! I mean, let's face it. How much money are we spending on interest alone in this country? I mean, and then there are things they don't even vote on when they do the budget because no one wants to be in a position where they vote for it or against it, like Social Security, and which I love. Yeah. That's the best deal going. I mean, if I make that Medicare, oh my gosh, if I make it till like 80 or 90, oh my gosh, I'll have really racked up. I'm already cleaning up on Medicare. That's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I realistically don't know how we do that. I mean, I don't know how I go into a doctor or my wife gets a replacement knee and they have the surgery at $70,000 and we pay like $100. I mean, maybe we pay more than I don't know, but believe me, it's not very much. How do we do that? We can't do that. That's impossible to do. I mean, these things can't, and the boomers aren't going to vote to get rid of that stuff.
Exactly.
We do more voting than everybody else.
Right.
So we'll ride this ship to hell before we give that stuff up. That's just the way people
human
are.
nature.
They don't want to get rid of anything that's for them. Now, maybe when the boomers die, is the millennials, is that what's next? I can't.
Yeah. Gen X, then Gen Y, millennials.
They'll go, screw all those old people. They need to have it like we do. Maybe they'll cut it off. But there's going to have to be a lot of boomers die before that happens.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. That's so funny.
Yeah, but we're on a downhill trajectory, and I don't think there's anything that can be probably slowed down, but how do you come back from $35 trillion in the hole? I mean, you got to devalue the money. That's the only way you could pay that off is to value the money. But at some point in time, everybody you owe that money to is going to go, wait a second. We can't afford to be screwed anymore on this deal. I mean, you owed us $35 million. The world, or all these people are going, you owe us these millions of dollars or billions of dollars or trillions of dollars. But here it is 5 years later, and it's worth 25-50% of what it was worth. We're getting screwed. We got the best deal going. However they figured this out, we send people pieces of paper. Now we don't even send the pieces of paper, and they give us stuff, cars and TVs. They just give us this stuff, and we just make this money up. That's true internet, made up internet money, is the US dollar. That is true made up money. Oh, we need some more weapons. Run off another $1 trillion there.
It makes me think of two things. How did the world not go to war in 71 when Nixon took us off the gold standard? And you basically rug pulled every country in the world, in essence, I guess, from generalizing.
They said that was a temporary fixture first.
Yeah, that too.
I saw the interview with I watched that. I bought the Time magazine or Newsweek from when that happened, and I got into that on my YouTube feed. I got into that for a while, and they were really worried about it. One of the head guys said how people would react to that, so they said it was a temporary thing, but no one reacted at all. I mean, no one did jack, and they just said, okay, well, this worked out better than we thought. I mean, that's the short of it. And they kept going. And that was probably in 9th grade, 10th grade. I don't remember anything of it, at all. I mean, so it's not like wild. Back then I think everybody was so worried about the Vietnam War back then.
True. Cold War, Vietnam War.
Your friends were going to Vietnam. They were dying. If you were parents, you were worried about your kids are going to Vietnam. So I think that was a much bigger issue I think if it had been like nothing going on,
Hmm.
maybe it would have been more noticed, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
It is crazy that we just said, yeah, go ahead and debase our money and just ruin it. But
Yeah.
maybe
And
people,
countries sat
I
by.
think people, and I think then even though people had more faith in the U.S. government. It's
True.
like when they made gold
True.
illegal. You know, people just went to the banks and turned in their damn gold and said, you can only have 5 ounces of gold. Well, I got 10. Here's my extra 5 ounces of gold. Give me $30, and you can reprice it at $60 next month. You know,
Yes.
where I don't think that would happen today.
No.
If they said everybody brings their gold, not that people have gold like they did then.
Right.
But I don't think anyone would hardly take their gold down there.
No.
And then I saw a thing in Michigan where they had some gun law they passed, and you had to like go register. If you had like one of those stock pistols, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
The bumps.
You
Yeah.
had,
Bump stocks and all the different.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had to go
Yeah.
register your gun as
Yeah.
some type of weapon, and like only 2% of the people did it.
Yeah.
And then they pulled it back, but those 2% of the people, their weapons are already registered now. So
Right.
people wouldn't even do that, and it was the law. So people don't have the respect. And I think because of the dollar, the gold being taken out of the dollar, because how the Vietnam War went, and Watergate, all these things caused the downhill
True.
slide that people don't have that faith anymore that they did have. Because up till then, up till the early 70s, people pretty much, or maybe late 60s, people pretty much had a pretty good, strong confidence in the government. The government told them to do something. Let's take the food pyramid, for instance. Yeah, you got to eat, you got to eat all this crap food. We
Oh
believed
boy.
anything the U.S. government told us. Nuclear bombs are coming. Hide under your desk if you're in the third grade.
Hmm.
That's going to
Yeah.
do a lot for you there. Okay, we're all sitting under our desk. Yeah.
It's it's so true, and it's you go back to the rise of the intelligence agencies, right? Psychological operation testing that was going on at a really large scale, really probably for 50 years, even before you were born. Like I've read a lot just in like the late 1800s and the British Empire and the early 1900s and how they were taking a lot of those techniques and bringing them to America. And really, you had such a change in the late 19th and then early 20th century that by the time you were born and into your early adulthood, and it's like things were already so different. People just like the apparatus behind the scenes was doing things that the average person is just like, well, this has never been a problem for the last 200 years. Like, what do you mean? Like, how are you? I remember my grandfather in '08 saying that to me, and he just passed away a few years ago. He was 88 years old, and he was a staunch Democrat and it was in the unions and sheet metal and things like that. And when the '08 election happened and he saw what happened to Hillary, completely changed him and my grandmother's life, and they became some of the most conservative, like red red pilled people I've ever seen in my life. And it was just like the wake up from the Matrix, being like, oh my goodness, like these people have been lying to me my entire life. And so you're seeing these transformations of people, but it's a lot of this apparatus behind the scenes, I believe, just kind of doing this bidding and doing things and just kind of psyoping people. I don't necessarily like that term all the time, but just these psychological things going on, and just how can we manipulate the public? How can we kind of, like you said earlier, now we're really coming full circle. How can we herd them over here? How can we herd them over here? And people just not thinking and
Well, we like
trusting
being
too much.
herded.
We do.
Well, we like
Yeah.
being herded
You said it. Yeah.
as a species. I guess and that's one of those things, those buffalo, they're running into like those gazelles running across the river, and those
Yeah.
crocodiles eating them. They just keep
Yep.
coming.
They just keep going.
Even though they're seeing everybody getting eaten, they just keep coming, So,
Oh man.
and we're like that. I'm Catholic,
Yeah, so am
and
I.
I joined the Knights of Columbus.
Same.
Did you
Yeah.
join? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how it was, your initiation was, but I assume it's the similar.
Similar,
But there's
probably.
this point in time where people, I don't want to give out the secrets in case that's like the
Right.
secret handshake, you're not supposed to tell them. But there's a point in time, all these people are coming to protect the priest, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like going, this makes no sense. But everybody with me were all like ready to get in a big fight in our situation, not theirs, yours was. But there were like 8 of us in this room, and this one guy was there as a plant just to cause mischief.
Mm-hmm.
And these other 8 guys, they were going to beat the hell out of this guy. And I was, wait a second, dude, this is not right. Let's realize this is a controlled environment we're in. I mean, this isn't like we're out in the wilderness.
Right.
So, but people were like, oh, jumping into that bandwagon,
Hmm.
even though this was a very controlled environment we were in, so people just can't help but join the bandwagon, whether it's good or bad.
So true.
It's what, everybody wants to be part of the crowd. I mean, or
Yes.
most people do.
Yes. And a great example of this, which we don't need to go. I mean, who knows? This might get this video canceled, but the thing that happened in January, a couple days ago
Yes.
in January, 3 years ago at the Capitol, that was a great example of that, right? Mob rule, where it's like, you have things kind of like you said, people are planted there, or whatever it is, and then it's just like it takes off, right? People are just like, wait, what's going on? And I gotta, it's just it's a great example of that. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's a real great example. And, and I always jest about that. And not that necessarily it was funny or anything that happened funny, but
Right.
they're saying Trump tried to throw the government. Really? He was trying to throw over the whole government with like 250 old people. I mean, even if they had weapons, did he have
Oh man.
wouldn't he have like
He's a
called
better
up the
salesman than that.
head of the army or something and said,
Right.
hey, we're gonna like take over the country. You with me?
Yeah.
Or he just go, no, you
Make it
guys
more
here,
obvious.
we're gonna take over this giant country of 50 states,
Yes.
and it all starts right here with you guys. Go take over the White House, and then we'll go to the Pentagon from there. I mean,
Boy.
what the hell? You can say what you want to, but that's really stretching it to say he was trying to overthrow the country with
Oh boy.
however 100 people, and most of them old farts. They had to stop taking naps soon.
Yeah, brilliantly said. And this is why I say I want playable characters in here. There's so many non-playable characters out there that just can't think beyond like one surface level like media story. It's like, oh, really? And they just take it and run with it. It's like, wow, come on, people.
Yeah.
So-
But that's really so common to us. Like I said, people
yeah.
believe a lot of what they're told.
Yes, Gell-Mann amnesia effect. So BitBlockBoom, how did BitBlockBoom come about? I know we're going for a little over an hour now, so we'll be cognizant of your time, and it's a few more minutes, obviously. But I wanted you to talk about BitBlockBoom, how that came about, and some of the highlights of that conference that you run.
Well, I'd been in Bitcoin less than a year when I decided to do a Bitcoin conference.
Wow.
And I thought it was a good way to meet people, other Bitcoiners, besides my friend. So we held BitBlockBoom, and it was like not a lot of people wanted to come, but I had like Pierre Rochard coming and Michael Goldstein coming. Pierre was coming from New York. I had Saif Moose coming. This was his first book tour signing. So I just caught him at the right time. So I was like, oh man, no one's coming. I was out at night, me and my buddy giving out tickets at meetups, just trying to get people there. And we ended up with about 75 people there, but it turned into a great event and people liked it a lot. So the next year it grew and it grew. And now this is our 7th year coming up, and we're a Bitcoin conference. That's all we talk about is Bitcoin. I'm not into cryptos. I'm into Bitcoin. And so you're not even allowed to talk about it. People come and report people all the time to me, and I have to go over and tell them, hey, you can't talk about that shit coin here. Oh, I didn't talk about it. I said 2 people came up to me. They got better things to do. I'm just telling you, this is your only warning. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
Oh man.
So it's always been in August, the last weekend in August. And I looked at the calendar, and there's so many conferences in the fall. It's like there's one every week. I mean, in the fall after Bitcoin Magazine conference. So I moved it to April because there aren't very many in the spring at all. Actually, I think we're the first sizable conference. Not that we're giant, but we're the first sizable conference of the spring, and we're in April. April the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, week of the eclipse, total eclipse of the sun here, and right around the halvening. I think the halvening happens right after it. Some people tell me I'm way off, and some people tell me I'm a few days before. So, hell, I don't know. There's got to be a site that has an accurate date on it by now. Not that far away.
I know.
Even
time change calendar.
Even if the clock's running 10 minutes, time change calendar, you think shows that?
Yeah, time change calendar. I think TC's site has it at April 22nd or 23rd. It was bouncing back over the last few weeks at that. So, I feel like he's usually got a pretty good pulse.
Away.
Exactly. So you're right now you'd be perfect timing. Yeah, I mean you'd be perfect. So
because I looked at the Bitcoin halvening party in El Salvador, and I didn't want to interfere with them, so I marked off that off my weekend, and I marked off weekends, and this was it was either this weekend, the weekend of the 13th or the 30th, the last of the month. And I thought that was too
Right.
late. You know, those are the
Yep.
weekends I could get my location. So, but yeah, it's a conference that we do every year. If anyone is interested, go to bitblockboom.com and use the code BBB1, and you can sign up for a discount, get a discount through there. You should sign up for the affiliate program. We have an affiliate program that pays
Yes.
money and tickets and all kinds of stuff. Anyone interested in that, just sign up on the site where it says sign up for affiliate program. We have a lot of people making decent money off the affiliate program. Surprised me how well that's doing.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
it's just a chance to be with Bitcoiners and talk about Bitcoin. You know,
And
and
the
the oldest
conferences are
Bitcoin
important.
conference in the country now, or one of
Yeah.
the country.
Yeah, and they're so important, and that's community is the number one thing in any survival situation. We obviously talked about a lot of different things. We talked about like we both kind of mentioned is there's going to be probably some hard times ahead. Well, community is the number one thing. It's not Bitcoin, it's not guns, ammo, food, water, whatever. It's community. Because what are you short on that someone else your neighbor, your friend, your whatever can help you show up on? Community is the number one thing. So that's why the conferences are so important. Your digital community is so important in person, in real life. It's huge. It's huge, huge, huge. So that's why I love that what you're doing, and unconfiscatable. Obviously, there's a handful of really good conferences. So yeah, there was let me see here. Oh, and so Bitcoin trading cards. Obviously, I lead marketing efforts there. I know you've got a good
And you
relationship with
guys are one of our
Aladdin.
sponsors there.
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
and we're gonna
if
have
I'm
cards.
correct, y'all are going to have BitBlockBoom cards this
Hmm.
year.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we're gonna have conference packs that for BitBlockBoom this year. We'll have, we will be their team will be there. So yeah, we're super excited for that.
And what's
So
funny about that is Aladdin told me he was going to do some boomer stuff in there, which is cool. But I have had a lot of people ask me over the years, does BitBlockBoom stand for Bitcoin blockchain boomers? And I'm going, no, it just was a
that's
name
hilarious.
that. And I said, I never actually, first person told me, I said, I never even thought about that until you said it.
I didn't
But
either
then,
until you just said that. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yes.
we put in to a URL generator all these terms: Bitcoin,
Mm,
blockchain, blah blah blah, and
smart.
BitBlockBoom was one of the answers. And I said, no, I like
Yeah,
that. You know,
it's catchy. Yeah, it's probably one of the best names, if not the best name for a conference. So it's very catchy.
you
It
can't
did
say
its
it three
job.
times real fast though.
Yeah, well, you don't try that, but
Yeah,
other than that,
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the
that's gonna be a
conference there. We're
blast.
going to try to set up a table. We all have
Yes.
two tables. We're going to try to set up an area for you to do your pack
Yep. Yeah, the pack ripping and
videos, pack gripping videos,
yes.
and get
Yep.
that set up for you. So we should have a good conference. We're going to have a great conference. We always have a good conference.
Yeah, it'll be
It'd
good.
be nice to
It'll
be back in Dallas.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I like Dallas a lot, and we'll have to try to get some interviews done. I'll try to catch you while we're there as well. So a few months from now, obviously, geez, yeah, it's exactly 3 months from now. So
Yeah.
we'll have to do this again there, kind of talk about the conference, how things are going, I mean, that's a whole quarter from now. So there's gonna definitely be a lot of events between now and then. So to chat about,
Yes, a
that's
lot
gonna
of
be
things going on. Hell,
holy cow. What
with
what are you what are you
there's a lot of
going?
stuff that could happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, not to like you said earlier that you mentioned the ETFs. There's gonna be a lot of stuff that's going on. Who knows? We could be at 25,000 Bitcoin. We could be at 100,000 Bitcoin at that point. So we just
You
there's
know,
any
and people
litany,
don't realize how possible that is. Either one of those.
right? Seriously, probably an equal
Either
chance
one of
either
those.
way.
I
Yes,
don't think we're going to hit 25, but it's possible.
I know.
I don't think we're going to hit 100, but I think the 100 would be more possible than the 25.
I think so too.
Even though we're
Yes,
only at 46 or something now. I think the odds of it, it's like I tell people, the odds of it going to 1 million are higher than the odds of it going to zero. And people have a real hard time. I've quit saying that because they can't really absorb that.
yeah, it's
That's
tough.
gonna.
I'm glad you said that. Honestly, I think I've been saying that a little bit lately too. It's funny you say that too, because it's like I think Saylor's quote about that is one of the most underrated quotes to help people actually jog their mind and kind of break out of things, which is if it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million or it's going to infinity. And that's where like you see people's gears really start turning. It either breaks their mind and shuts it down, or they're
Yeah.
like, wait, they go away thinking about it more. Yeah,
You know
it's
what used
true
to
though.
really get me when I would explain Bitcoin to somebody? Well, especially if I was explaining to someone who I guess in my peer group of old farts.
Hmm.
I'd spend they'd ask me about it. I said, sure, blah 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 blah. And I talked about 10 minutes about it. And then I felt like I scanned over everything pretty good. They should have a pretty basic understanding of it, enough that they could go start absorbing more. And then they would always answer, or not always, but a lot of time answer, go, do you have one on you? And I'm going, oh my God, did I do that shitty of a job explaining this? That you think I'm going to
Oh
have one of my,
man,
you think I'm carrying around $50,000 in my pocket? I mean, first of all, I
amazing.
mean, really? But did I do that bad of a job explaining that you don't understand it's not a real thing? I think one of the worst things happened to Bitcoin is that Bitcoin logo thing, not the logo itself, but the coin.
Yes,
People really do have it. And every time you see the news talking about Bitcoin, Bitcoin's up today, blah, blah, blah. Stuart
yes.
Lonnie here. It's up, and I don't know what it is, but I see a coin on the screen.
The
Can you tell
gold
me
coin.
about
Yeah.
that? Yeah, yeah.
Oh
So
man.
that's really, yeah, they need to get rid of that and find some other representation, whether it's the matrix with a bunch of bees on it or something.
Something. Yeah, it's so funny you say it too, because if you do like a Google search and just like type in Bitcoin and the image search, it's literally 95% like gold coins. And you're just like,
Yeah.
oh man, we need to do a
Maybe
better
there's a
job there.
silver one thrown in there
Yeah,
once in a
yeah,
while.
exactly. You got like one silver one. Too funny. What other conferences are you planning on attending this year, other than obviously throwing yours here in second week of April?
I'll be at in Nashville for Bitcoin
Hmm.
Magazine. Um, you know, I go to that conference every year, and it's just a little big for me. Of
Yeah.
course, it's a little big. I mean, even when it was down
Yeah,
60%, it's
last
still
year's.
10,000 people.
Yeah.
So of
Jeez.
course it's too big. That was better than when it was 30,000. But there's so many people there that I know that
Hmm.
that's the only time I get to see them.
Right.
And I'm more worried about the outside events than I am the inside events. I mean, by
Yes.
outside, I mean events other people are putting on. Like, gosh, people doing parties on the side, dinners on the side, and things like that. So
That's the
I'm
real
more interested.
magic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where their networking is done. But I
Yes.
meet a lot of people. When I meet them at the conference, new people, I really don't absorb that information, and I don't remember them real strong. But if I meet them at
Yes.
an event and I have a lot of time sitting there talking to them, I retain who they are till the next year when I come back. But
Yes.
now I'm at the point I just tell people I'm not going to remember who you are. You know? And then
I think you
when
told
I
me
see
that when I
when
met
I
you,
see
you
him
told me
next
the same
time,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and they go,
Yeah.
"Well, you told me you wouldn't remember who I was."
He's honest. If not for nothing, he's honest. That's
Yeah,
it.
but usually after, if I have enough time with him, I do recall, or if I
Exactly.
meet
I
him
know you
more
and
than
I only
once.
bumped in like we only got to chat for like 2 minutes. It was like in between something or another and something. I don't even know what it was, but it's so funny. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate you so much, Gary. Any
Yeah,
last words of advice or anything like that before, and then let people know where they can find you, and any last words here. I know I've kept you
yeah.
for what, hour and 20 almost here, I think. So I appreciate your time so much.
If you want to find me, just search Gary Leland. I'm usually like the first 4 or 5 pages on Google. There's some dead guy in there on page 2. He was Gary Leland Jones or something. He might be gone by now. Might be some
Oh
more dead
man.
guys. That's kind of an old name, Gary. But yeah, I just tell people, just wake up to, my advice is just, and no one's gonna be watching this who's not a Bitcoiner. So I guess I don't have any advice, because my advice would be to people who aren't Bitcoiners, and they aren't going to watch an hour and a half worth of Bitcoin shit if they're not a Bitcoiner, because they aren't going to be caring that much.
Well, I hope that, so my part of my hope actually is I'm going to be, we have a fair amount of Bitcoiners. This is my 31st episode. I've had, Jimmy on
Oh,
here and
congrats.
BJ Dichter and a bunch of great people. But my hope is I want to start kind of veering a little bit into, like you see it on X or Twitter or whatever. You see a lot of like the freedom, I don't want to say freedom
Right.
caucus. That's what came into my head. But you see a lot of these influencers that are 50,000 followers, 100, 200, 500, a million followers, and they're very political, right? And they're young, maybe they got a really big followings. And I already have a few people lined up that are in that space that I'm intrigued about, because they're kind of open to Bitcoin. They have followers that are probably somewhat open to that because they're freedom-based people. So that's where I'm gonna probably start taking this a little
Yeah, those
more over
people should
time.
be
So,
jumping on this as quick as
oh,
lightning.
I know.
Yeah, it's like some of that. It's like one of the things people ask me, which is the stupidest question, is what happens if the internet goes down? Well, what happens? I mean, what happens to your money? I mean, your credit card
Chase Bank.
machine doesn't work. Credit card machine didn't even work. I mean, you're in
Oh
worse shape
man.
than I am. At least I could take it off on my computer and on a thumb drive, right?
Yeah, beyond frustrating, man.
Yeah.
We could do
So,
this
so
forever.
like I said, I don't try to talk people into it because it's just too hard as over and over. People don't want to be convinced. But yeah,
So true.
everybody needs to get it some skin in the game. that's my advice. If people are watching at this point who aren't into Bitcoin, like I said earlier, put 1% in. My gosh, you're not even
Mm-hmm.
going to miss it.
Position
I mean,
size.
I'm
Yeah.
not a financial advisor, so don't lose all your money and get mad at me. But
Right.
I'm in way more than 1%, and I'm comfortable. It's
Yeah,
just
same.
a matter of seeing it. And if you've got some skin in the game, you see it do all the stuff that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We see it go to 69,000 and drop to 17,000, or go to 19,000 and drop to 3,500. So I mean, we're not really too sitting there worried about it. I mean, it's
Right.
not like tomorrow, if they announce the ETF isn't going to happen and it drops to 30,000, are you selling? I'm not.
Exactly.
That's not even 50%.
It's not even.
I mean,
Yeah. It's funny, Gary. It's such a great point because people, money is psychological. Really, at the end of the day, it's all it is, and we're fighting this psychological battle. And the tipping point is going to come because the dollar, like, no one has to tell me about the dollar because actions speak louder than words. Where everyone is selling their dollars, or generally a lot of people are selling it to buy other assets because they don't believe inherently, subconsciously, they don't believe in the dollar because they know it's not holding value. Bitcoin is the opposite. This is why, 80% of hodlers, people don't sell their Bitcoin because they believe in that
Right.
asset instead. It's so inverted, and it's intuitive once you see the light, but it's very counterintuitive until you see the light. So it's absolutely
it's like
wild.
Peter McCormick. I was on his show a few weeks ago, and he asked me, and we were talking, and I said, I've never sold any of my Bitcoin because I haven't. I've never sold any. I've just stacked it. And he goes, what are you saving it for? And I said, well, I'm not really saving it for anything. Why would I spend the most valuable asset in the world when I got fiat? I mean, if I run out of fiat and I'm going,
there you go.
I got no money and I got to buy groceries or pay electricity, I would cash them in. But as long as I've got fiat, as long as my Social Security checks are coming, I mean, and then I'm at a stage in life, everything's paid for, and I have more than, and I do the conference, I have more than the Social Security checks, but they're nice too, though. But yeah, until I run out of fiat, I don't know that I'll ever spend any Bitcoin. I mean, I mean, I'm not saving it for my kids necessarily, but I'm sure they're going to really appreciate it when I die.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
That's just a side benefit from having a smart dad.
Yep. And that's your job, right? That's your job as the father. Yeah. So thank you so much, Gary. Appreciate you so much.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
April 11th, 12th, 13th, BitBlockBoom. Well, I'll link to everything as well. So get the links in there.
I'll see you there, and
yes,
glad to have you guys. And I probably need to get Aladdin, touch base with him.
Yes, he'd love that.
Card images or something. But,
yes.
Thanks for having me on the show. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you, Gary.
This lasted an hour and a half, so we must have had a good time.
Oh, we did. I know. I always say 30 to 60. That way we don't go 3, 4, 5 hours. I try to anchor low. So I appreciate you so much, Gary.
I always tell people I'll talk forever, so you got to haul me in. And I'm doing it now, so I'll let you go because I know you're trying to end it.
Oh, thanks so much, Gary. I appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
I really hope that you enjoyed that episode today. Gary is one of the people I admire the most in the Bitcoin space. Like I said earlier, he's someone that can truly think outside the box, think critically. Obviously a playable character, has learned, then unlearned, and then relearned. And he runs the BitBlockBoom conference, started that 7 years ago, the year he got into Bitcoin. So obviously he's someone who gets after it, he gets things done, and he executes. So I admire him on many levels, and truly I think people like him are the people that need to be their opinions weighted, really kind of greater than others. I don't know the best way to say that, but someone who has that wisdom and experience and that can still lower their ego and increased humility to say, you know what, I might not know everything. I have to figure something else, learn some new tricks. And I think those are the people that we really need to, and that's why I take umbrage to the okay boomer meme so much. It's just such a gross misgeneralization because there are so many great people out there that we don't want to get lost in the shuffle. And Gary is one of those people that needs to be heard. So I appreciate you, Gary. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you so much. Blessed to know you, have you come on. And I hope you got something out of this, but please share this out. The algorithm can't stand truth. The algorithm's not gonna like what some of the things that Gary said and the things we talked about, but in order to really get away from hopefully some of the things that Gary warned of and minimize collateral damage, we can overwhelm the system by getting this out, doing the algorithm's job, and pushing this out there as best we can. So please join us in the next one. This is not financial advice, it is freedom advice. Trust but verify and question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. And we will see you on the next one.